Hello, coaches of the world. It's Joel. I'm back, and this is the Coaches Rising podcast. And we're speaking today with Katie Hendricks. And, you know, I bandy this word pioneer around a lot. And, probably we speak to a lot of pioneers because we try to speak to the most awesome people we know. But Katie is a real pioneer in the field. And I think she's been working in this field of transformation and relationships and coaching for over 4 decades. So we're in great hands. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of things. One thing is Katie's really generous. So she shares a lot of different tools and gateways into transformational presence. That's the kind of topic we're talking about. So. She's going to talk about this thing called the loop of awareness, how we can move our attention back and forward between our clients in a way that opens up our body intelligence, opens up a sense of aliveness and collaboration and authentic emergence. So all of this begins to infuse the coaching. And the cool thing she says is sometimes coaches come out of a day of coaching and they feel like they've used energy, and that's a flag that something's not quite right. And these things she's talking about, this loop of awareness and these other things, if you do this, you can end a day of coaching feeling more energized, more alive than when you went in. So she's going to talk about that and a ton of other great stuff in this session. She is also on the faculty of our upcoming, soon to be starting coach training program called Coaching from Source, How to Be a Transformational Presence. It's all online. I'm going to be back at the end of this to tell you all about it. So enjoy. I want to talk to you about something today, which has been on my radar. How could I say it? It's really taken a hold of me over the last 12 months. And I think in some way it's been a part of me for a long time, but it seems to be crystallizing. And it's what I've been calling coaching from source, or being a transformational presence, which I think, a lot of the coaches who are listening in will resonate with in some way, that we want to have a positive impact on our clients. And I think the piece especially that I'd love to explore with you today is that there's a space beyond our kind of coaching persona even, or our training and tools. Training and tools are great, but that there's this space we can move into beyond that, a space of presence and intimacy and kind of maybe even surrender and dancing with the unknown. And I think that's where a lot of magic can happen. Mm-hmm. So maybe my first question is just simply, what comes up for you as I say that?
Well, for one thing, in our newest book, Conscious Loving Ever After, we have a whole chapter on presencing. And we've turned presencing into a verb, because one of the aspects of, like, when someone says, have you gotten present? There's a sense of, well, I've arrived, I've gotten present. And then there's a kind of staticness of that, well, then what? And I think it also tends to, if I'm talking about getting present or being present, that there's an element of not really being with what then wants to arise. And if there's anything I know about presencing, it's that it allows you to be with change while being with yourself. And the way I think of presencing is that I'm fully participating. And I think often in the coaching situation, we have a dichotomy that if I'm the coach, that I'm giving all of my attention out to the client or to the group. And what I've been playing with, and what I'm going to be continuing to explore, is something I call loop of awareness, which it allows you to, as the coach, to continue presencing yourself. That is being here fully and participating. And being here fully for you and being there fully for the client, which seems like it would be impossible. But it actually works very easily and very quickly because you learn how to shift your attention and how to fill your reservoir with your own attention while you're giving attention to your client. So you don't drain yourself and then feel exhausted at the end of the day and then have to do something to recoup and then start the whole thing all over again. And, I've been doing this for 45 years now, and I have more energy, more vitality, more interest, more magic than I did when I was in my 20s. So this tool that I call loop of awareness can be used lifelong. It keeps growing. You keep finding more ways that you can include what's going on in your awareness, but it's not like it's a meditative where you're just sitting, or transcending. You're really actively using yourself so that you don't have to keep any of your parts in a compartment. And I think that's a lot of where the magic comes, because I'm not trying to manage what's going on. I'm really following what's wanting to happen with my awareness and then with my participation. So that's sort of, the start of what comes to me when I think about presencing. But the main thing that I think is really valuable is that the coach gets to continue expanding and creating and developing your own awareness, your own experience. And then your coaching comes from an overflow of your own aliveness, not a depleting of your own aliveness.
Mm-hmm. I love this. I mean, I get the sense of this like a movement, a dance, and this flow of life and aliveness. And I mean, just to respond to a couple of things you said, I know that place inside of me as well where I have felt depleted. I also experienced that less and less, but where I have felt depleted after coaching, and it's felt like work. And even though I know that it's always a warning sign when it feels like work, still, it comes up and it's, so I know that place, and that touches me, and it just feels so abundant. This place that you're talking about.
That's such a great word. It is really a source of abundance. That's the depletion that occurs, I think, comes because we need to have a structure. So when we're interacting, even if it's in a friendship, there's some kind of a structure there that we operate from. And that's what I call the context. So if we're friends, we know we have kind of, hi, how are you? And then if there's business to get to, we get to the business. And then we have nice to talk to you. So even for phone conversations, we have a structure. So for coaching, part of the structure that we've learned, I think, doesn't really work very well for people's aliveness. So that would be, it's all about the client. I shouldn't ever say anything about myself. Don't really share something that's authentic that's going on for you because it's all about the client. And that overloading, I think, is part of the big reason that people get burned out. And when you truly are giving yourself attention, you're noticing your breathing, you're noticing body sensations, you're noticing I get my best images from doing this loop of awareness. I'll have an image that comes into my mind that, just seems completely out of the blue. And then I share that and it's absolutely spot on for the client. So it's where the magic comes from, is in the structure then becomes you and I are collaborating. And I'm giving you my attention and I'm requesting your attention. And then the mix of that attention is where the magic comes in.
Which when you say it like that, makes total sense. It's like, why wouldn't that work better than this, this other way where you feel more depleted and maybe you're kind of excluding yourself in some way. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the should in kind of traditional, certainly in traditional therapy, which is part of my background, but in traditional coaching, you wouldn't include yourself. And I think that you can be an open space. So I'm always, when I'm working with people, I'm giving you attention, and then I'm coming back over to me and just basically touching in. It's including me, and then I'm including you. And then there's something that happens in this we space that I actually think is the frontier right now, this co-creative space where we both get to benefit. I get to have, the joy of resonating, the joy of connecting, the power of being together as humans deepens my ability to feel my humanness and to feel what it is that I'm most passionate about. And so I leave the session actually feeling more vital than I did when I started. That kind of energy economy, I think, I want all coaches in the world to know about that, because you go through all of this work and study, to really learn how to be of service. And then you exclude yourself, like, I'm going to be of service to everybody else, but not me. And so the techniques that I've developed and used over many decades now really allow discovery to happen very quickly, because they're rooted in body. They're rooted in body signals, what we call flags. They're rooted in what's happening now. So we don't spend a lot of time going into the history and the who did what and, whose fault it is. But because if it's present in your body, it's still present for you. If it's historical, it won't come up in your body. But if it's present, it's going to come up in ways that you can learn to see, to feel, to listen to, and then that gives you your signals about what to say next, or what to suggest, or what to bring the client's attention to, rather than your head. We come from such an incredibly head-centric culture. I was just teaching a workshop this last weekend on the practice of presence, so it's very familiar to me right now. And most people really got that when I said, where is your consciousness located right now? And people really, kind of felt into it. Most of them realized that it was about from here. Some of them, it went down to below their hearts, but most of them, it was up here. And that's what we think when we're paying attention. Like, imagine as a coach, if you had to just be vigilant all the time, and you're trying to notice everything, and you're trying to listen to everything, but you got your head out in front of your body and you're not breathing. You're not moving. By the end of the session, you're going to just be exhausted. Plus, you won't be as smart.
Well, there's so much comes up for me. I think in a way, like, let me see if I can include all what I want to say. I think that move out of our heads, I don't want to make it out that like our thinking mind or our heads or whatever we want to call it is a bad thing, but it's just, we've relied on that.
It's gotten a lot more airtime than the body, and it's gotten a lot more, rewards and attaboys. Whereas the body is like, ew, bad, control the body. It has feelings and sexuality and all that. Ew. So, but head, the head is presentable, and the head, we face people. We look at our emotions on our faces. But the more you include the body, the more fun you're going to have, and the more, I think the more of service that you're going to be to your clients.
Well, exactly, because I think, that we access a greater part of who we are, a greater intelligence. And when you say the body, it's not just like our emotions and feelings, but there's something about this kind of knowingness or felt experience that is so powerful. And just to build that, when you talk about this kind of present momentness too, I know these moments in my coaching where where it's like the moment that we've not got an outcome in mind, or I'm not looking at them through a model, you know. It's like my training can be there, but there's just this like unfoldingness, you know, it's going back and forward, and it's got a very different feel to it. Like,
Yes. It really is like a dance, as you were saying earlier. And it's a very specific kind of a dance in that I'm taking my rhythm from the client.
mm,
And that my rhythm, for example, might be more bouncy than the client. So I'm not ignoring my bounciness, but I may let my bounciness be more internal rather than,
mm, mm,
right out there. So if I'm letting them lead, so if we were in a dance, I'm letting them lead.
mm,
So it doesn't mean I'm a wet noodle, or
mm,
I'm having them drag me around. I'm definitely participating, but I'm letting them lead.
mm,
And as I do that, while really honoring, all of my embodied experience, different things pop up, different things to say, different things that I notice in them. And then I give my attention to, I can see that a feeling is just starting to arise. And so I just give my attention to that, and then let myself breathe and give attention to that. And what that does is, I think it just is renewing for your whole body, and it's renewing for your whole consciousness,
mm,
regardless of what you do with the client. But then I think what people have found, what our students have found, is that people go, wow, this was, like I could see something that she was doing with her hand, and I brought that to her attention, and she remembered how she always used to try to hide her fingernails from her mother because her mother was so critical. And then we were able to get into the whole critical filter and begin to release that. So the signals from the bodies are these little clues that
mm,
something is ready to be explored, and that's really big fun.
mm, mm. Well, so how do you, if we kind of zoom in on, so imagine I mean, you are talking about this, but you're sat opposite somebody, and you're kind of presencing in the way that you've been speaking about. Maybe you could even share an example, if one comes to mind, of where this happened recently. But like, yeah, how does that show up for you? I mean, I know you are talking about this, but let's kind of, maybe we can paint a picture for people at home, like another
Sure.
example that you
Well,
shared.
the way that this has all come from what we've noticed over many decades. And in
Mm,
our book, At the Speed of Life, we have a chapter that's called The Five Flags.
mm,
And the flags are literally, yoo-hoo, something's going on over here.
uh-huh,
And they're in the realm of breathing. So one of the things, for example, given that I've learned how to shift my attention, I
mm,
might notice that I've stopped breathing. So I'll note, and then I'll give my attention over there, and I'll notice, oh, they stopped breathing.
right.
So I can say, I just stopped breathing, and I noticed that you did. What just happened there? What just happened when you stopped breathing? And then that just gives us it's an open-ended invitation. So might have been they just had a memory,
Yeah.
a scary memory, or the feeling was starting to come up, and they don't want to feel it, and so they stop breathing. So it could be, really across the waterfront. Then there's movement flags. So people will often, for example, touch the area where the issue is.
Mm,
So we'll be talking, and the client will say, I don't know, I don't know what's going on with my dad right now. And I'll say, well, notice right under your hand. Just bring your attention to right under your hand. What are you feeling right there? What's the experience you're having right there? And then that would be, again, another opening. And then there are verbal flags. So verbal flags are not the content. They're the and the tonality and the repetition. So someone might say, I'm really angry about that. I'm just really angry about that. And so I would give attention to the really, and I might have them say really even bigger, and have their whole body say really, and see what opens up out of the really.
mm,
And then there's postural flags, where people have like,
Mm.
people have held a posture for so long that it's really changed the structure of their body.
Mm.
And so those are things that you can explore and play with. But most often it's going to be a movement, a breathing, or a verbal flag that arises. And when people get entranced by the content. So I just let me say that they think that's where the change happens, is if we can just figure out who said what, or even how to make a different kind of affirmation, that's where the work happens. But our evidence of thousands and thousands of people that we've worked with, and science, it's coming up now with more research, really shows us that when you make a shift in your body, the quickest way to change your mind is to change your body. And so we're really looking for the windows, the portals that really allow you. What was just popping into my mind is new operating system. That you're literally creating a physical, emotional, energetic operating system that can handle more energy. Because all of the structures are to keep us safe. They're to keep us in what's familiar. So when you go outside of that, it's like, people get scared. And we have ways of playing with that also. I've developed fear melters that I can share with people about how to let yourself move from fear to flow. So when you are expanding your nervous system, then life becomes an adventure where you're discovering, and you might have challenges, but you can participate with those. You can learn from those. It's not something that you need to wait to kind of get better before you can enjoy your life and have a full sense of connection to you and others starting right now. I say that's the big thing that I notice in practicing, is that when people come for coaching, I mean, it's still, in many places, there's a stigma. Coaching is pretty close to therapy, which is pretty close to a stigma that, there's something wrong with me, and so I'm not going to reach out for help. But when people have a sense that, I can feel more in touch with myself right now, today, and I can build on that, it gives them a confidence that it's not that there's something wrong with them, it's that they're getting more and more connected with what we call essence, who they really are. And they're letting their essence shine through more, rather than being underneath personas that we've all learned, to get along in society. You throw off more of the personas and you show up more and more authentically as who you are. And that's where, just very, very fun, unexpected, magical. I mean, I've had just amazing things happen. Everything from meeting people, meeting a friend on the street in the middle of Paris among 3 million people roaming around, to having a plane that was supposed to turn back because of snowstorms land in my city rather than the city that it was supposed to go to. Just all kinds of magical stuff can occur when you open up to really being in the flow of life. That's why we call our book At the Speed of Life.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of my criticisms of the therapeutic paradigm, as so many beautiful things it's brought to the world, and nuances and distinctions, but this sense that there's something wrong with me. There's a kind of scarcity that when I fix myself or get some quality that's in some imagined future, but we don't know really where that is. And when I get that, I'll be okay. But actually, like what you're talking about is it's kind of a more of feels more inside out in some way. It's like, no, right now we can begin to access something in this moment that takes us closer to who we really are.
Yes.
And it just feels like a different paradigm.
It is in fact a different paradigm. So the old paradigm, I think, is built a lot on the drama triangle of I fell off my bike as I was sharing with you. And the last thing is coming back is sort of being able to catch references, that I used to be able to just bring forward. But the drama triangle, what we call the victim, villain, and hero, is endemic to therapy and to most coaching models. So we're really looking for what's wrong. And so that puts the client in the victim role. So then my role would either be the villain, like, come on, if you just buckle down, you could do it, or the helper, the hero of, here, do this and you'll feel much better. But what that does is put evolution outside of my own control as the client. And the paradigm that I've been developing over the last few years, I call it presence, connect, play. So you actually can presence, that is what's actually going on right now. And that I'm relating to that, I'm opening to it, I'm feeling it, I'm seeing what wants to happen. And then I connect, and if I'm the client, the coach connects with me, which then starts to activate my connecting more deeply with me. And out of connection, that deep connection, we're looking at, okay, what wants to happen? What's emerging? What wants to be explored? How do we want to collaborate? But also play. I think the highest form of intelligence is play. I think Einstein said something like that. I'm probably paraphrasing Einstein, that if I'm completely available, what I'm going to want to do is play. And a very long time ago, Heraclitus, his 53rd fragment, is the universe is like a child at play with colored balls. So, we think of, what's the point? If I get to what I call the myth of arrival, if I get all better, I figure out what's wrong and I get all better, then what? So we're really looking at the then what, which is, what is it to live a life that's free of fear, where I'm engaging from my own passion, what I love to do, and I'm connecting with others who resonate with me, and we're co-creating. Not only co-creating for us, but co-creating for larger solutions, larger possibilities for community, for, I'm thinking globally these days. So, the helper, the hero, will never change anything ultimately. And I think that that's the big issue for coaches, is that we get caught in the hero trap. And if I'm the hero, then that only leaves two other options, the victim or the villain. So that paradigm, I think, is slowly grinding to a halt. And the paradigm of simply presencing, connecting, and then playing, presence, connect, play, repeat. I've been living pretty consistently the last year in that paradigm. So, and lots of my students, so I know it's real, I know it's possible, and it's really a whole lot more fun than digging yourself out of the triangle over and over again.
Yeah, I'm just writing words down that I want to come back to. For me, even that's a big thing I've been through, where I was like, oh, this idea of being a transformational presence, but then, like, what part of me wants to be a transformational presence? I want to be a powerful coach. I want to be a good coach. If you're not careful, that's the hero kind of energy, usurping that kind of move, and so there's an undoing in a way, or a coming to terms with my need to get approval, or to be powerful in order to be okay.
Yes.
And there's been an undoing of that. And I've seen, what you're talking about really touches me, because I've seen this amongst a lot of my friends and colleagues, this sense of this we space, or this collaborative kind of connection coming through, like that it's like, it's not about the hero anymore. Like, no. I'm this amazing thing, but it's about, like, through us coming together, something will emerge, and that by letting go of the need to get to an outcome, or like that space really opens up, and people
it really does.
they never said, or these ideas emerge, or creativity comes through.
What you were just saying, Joel, reminds me of something else really valuable about presence, is that presence is fulfilling. Presence is nourishing. That, often if I'm coming from hero as the coach, I'm looking for how good you're doing to get satisfaction. So if I do well with you, it means I'm a good person. But it's a very indirect way of getting nourishment. It's sort of like getting it through a straw, a little bit. But presence, presence is a nourishment, because people require presence, require attention as much as food and water. So if we don't get it, like for being our most affable selves, we're going to get it any way we can. So a lot of us have learned to kind of be desperate about attention because we've just never gotten enough. Coming from a family that was very, very critical, mother was very competitive, father was the most introverted person on the planet, I swear, just not there. So I basically just didn't have any attention, as a child. So I went into books. I got my attention from all of the different characters and mythology and, being in all of these stories, which are all stories of transformation. So I started getting my training very, very early on. But if you are able as a coach, first for yourself, to really love yourself, to be in the same space with yourself as you are, and then to give your attention to your client with a welcoming, like I'm here with you, with no agenda, which is, pretty Zen-ish. It's pretty difficult to do. But if I haven't gotten to that place, the attitude that I find most useful is curiosity. Because I can move into curiosity. No matter what I've brought with me into the session, I can shift over into a, what's going on with you? How are you? How am I? That space really opens up the flow of presence.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like I've got a question, like how, because this comes up for me, I love this approach you're talking about. And then we have, coaching clients that come in and they want to get somewhere, like they've got something they want to work on. Maybe they want to, and so, in a way we do have to combine that, so how do you see that playing out over time?
Oh yeah. So I'm not saying throw the structure out and then let's just sit in the sandbox and play. That very often when people have a goal, we can play with what's going on in their body as they talk about their goal, because that will tell us how they're getting in their own way. So if they have a goal and they haven't gotten there yet, what are they doing to keep themselves from getting there or realizing? And it could be anything from, wait a minute, that wasn't my goal. That was my parents' goal for me. Or, I get things started really well and then I sort of peter out. So it could be a whole range of things about the way, the how, not the why. The why is what usually people get involved in. The why did that happen? And, and then blaming and then the history, all of which I think is pretty useless to create any kind of transformation. But the how, very interesting. So one of the things that I have, that I specialize is turning concepts into processes. And I can teach coaches how to do that. So for example, I've turned commitment into a whole process where people can embody the power of commitment. So that it's not just a concept. It's really when I'm committing, I'm getting myself fully in and I'm moving from where I am to where I want to go. So it's the basic process for achieving a goal is committing. to it. But how do you do that? So from a body perspective, what you would do is first learn how to gather yourself, and then choose where do you want to go, and then start moving in that, literally in that direction. And then something will happen. You'll get distracted, or you'll have a critical thought. And then I teach people to recommit, because committing gets you into the game, but recommitting gets you to where you want to go. So that's just a small example of that. Everything in your life can be, you can bodify it. It's my favorite term for embodying it. You bodify it. Like even, I feel upset. Okay, well, bodify that right now. And I don't even have to give any people more instructions than that. I'll just bodify it. Okay, how are you experiencing in your body? And then I have them do it a little bit more. And then boom, in like 30 seconds, they go, oh, they get it. What, like, oh, I feel sad. Or, oh, I put so much on my plate that everything spills off. Or, they get it. And we don't have to go through the whole step by step. It's not linear. You can make quantum leaps when you invite your body into the play.
Well, I mean, I totally agree. And I mean, I've talked to you about this topic, this bodifying before. And I agree, like that there's so many ideas about how to grow and concepts, but if it doesn't become something embodied, or it isn't something that we can in that moment kind of access,
yes,
in a way that creates new action or new potential, then it's just, I think that's why so many people get frustrated.
Yes,
because they don't have that capacity,
yeah. So it's one thing to have, I think that one of the most important parts of what we can do with clients is to help generate practices with them. Since even recommitting, like some of my habits, I had a habit of concealing rather than revealing. And that got really rewarded when I was growing up. And so I was an observer, but I wouldn't say what I was seeing because it would get me into a lot of trouble. So learning how to reveal, just share myself authentically rather than conceal, took, hundreds of recommitments. I mean, hundreds. So rather than, I think what we add in is I make a commitment and then I drift from the commitment and then I beat myself up. So I criticize myself or I feel bad, and then maybe I recommit, but I may just stay over there and I never move forward again. So the really radical move is that when you drift is to recommit and then take an action. So for me in that case, it would be right in that moment to say something that was true, to say something that was real, like, oh, I feel really surprised that I don't have to beat myself up. I'm just kind of stunned into silence. That was what's really happening for me. And then that moves me back into being in alignment with my choices. And I think that's what we grow over a period of time. It's that inside out that you were mentioning earlier, that we learn how to source ourselves rather than being in what I call an exogenous world, which is caused from without. And that's what the culture wants from us, because that keeps us anxious and that keeps us buying things. So in our culture, that's really encouraged, so that you always feel like you're not quite right. But if you get this, or you buy this, or you do this program, you're going to get better. Rather than endogenous, which is caused from within. Endogenous would be, what do I really want? What do I really want? Who am I? Who am I right now? So it's just, it's a very, very different journey. I even have I've recently developed a process that's called the discovering from within scale. We have an external scale, like your openness to feedback, but this is your openness to your inner discovery. And so we've developed steps that are very reliable to assist you to discover yourself
Yeah.
in a curious way, not in a punitive way, but really in a, who am I and what do I want and what do I enjoy? And like, for example, knowing the signals, whether something is yes or no for you, seems very basic, but most of the adults I've met couldn't tell me how they know that something is a yes or a no for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And presumably that, yeah, well, I guess the yes shows up in all kinds of ways than the no, but I just think of a yes being more of an openness or a vibrancy or an inner sense of alignment.
Yes, you're doing something with your hands that people do when they're tuning into their yes. It's usually a fountaining.
Right.
It's kind of a upward fountaining, blossoming, but not for everybody. So and no could be like, some people feel it in their solar plexus, some people feel it in their jaw, some people feel it back behind on their shoulders. So it could be but once people get that, they have a reliable touchstone, like, oh, my body is saying no. And a really good place to play with that is with food, like when you're going out to eat, and with clothes, like, what do you want to wear today? So I have people use their practice their yes and no with simple things before they do something like, do I want to stay in this marriage? That would be like an advanced yes or no.
Well, we're coming towards the end of our time, but I want to connect this in. I think you used the word endogenous. What was that word again?
Endogenous, yes, caused from within.
So because I think we're talking about something really beautiful here. Like this endogenous capacity, this ability to connect what wants to emerge through us, as a response to life. Maybe we're a conduit in some way. We're opening up. We're learning to drop those personas and those masks, and our essence can shine through. And I wish I'd love for you to just say a few things about that and creativity. I know that's something that you speak about. Because I think many of the people we're coaching, maybe they won't say creativity, but whether they're an executive, a CEO, an entrepreneur, they're wanting to create, they're wanting to impact. So maybe you could speak about that.
Well, I think we're all creative. And in fact, we are always creating, but most of our creativity is unconscious. We haven't really claimed it. And when I am richly giving myself attention, and then I'm curious about, particularly, what do I want? I think it's a very important question. What do I want? And in any area, and then notice what happens in your body. That you're just, in addition to yes and no, wanting is a practice that most people haven't had much time to develop. So people will say, no, you don't want that. I've heard that so many times around kids, like, no, you don't want that new whatever it is. Or they'll be out to dinner. No, you don't want the steak. You want the chicken, right? And, it makes kids crazy, because the what do I want really then leads you to creating. So I want to climb a tree. So I'm going to look for a tree and I'm going to go climb that. I want to play with somebody. So I'm going to look for playmates, and then start playing with somebody else who also wants to play. And then that mutual wanting starts to dance with each other. I think that as I'm tuning into what I call authentic impulse, and there's a rich history of this in my background in the dance therapy world of authentic impulse. It's a body sensation of emergence. And even if it's been squashed in your life, you can find it again. You can find the rhythms of your own emergence. And in that, you move from the either or, the dichotomies, the polarities, into pure creativity. So now in our lives, and again, my lives, we're living in ways of creativity. we haven't, we haven't had any critical word in our house in 20 years.
Mm.
So when you're not criticizing yourself or others, you have a lot of free time. Really, people are so occupied. And that I think not only creativity, but co-creativity is the frontier.
Mm.
That are joining together, because almost all of our creativity has been framed as oppositional. I have to do it by myself. I can't be in a relationship and be creative. I have to give up something. I have to get my work done before I can be creative. We have all of these rules about creativity that are just nonsense, because basically that's what we're doing all the time, is creating. And it's really, how are you creating? And what are you creating? And are you creating consciously? So what I've seen over and over again is that when people release a persona, what comes up is this just magnificent authenticity and their authentic expression. And that's one of the most beautiful, inspiring things in the world. When someone just expresses themselves, that has so much juice in it, and it inspires people around them, and it inspires them to feed their creativity more. And it's really, I think at the heart of it is that you're doing what you love to do. Mm. You're doing what you love to do, such that when you're engaged in it, time just disappears. And what we say to people is that you can cultivate your creativity 10 minutes a time, 10 minutes a day, just doing something you love to do. So for me, that would be opening a journal and just letting myself move. Just letting myself move the way I want to move, that authentic movement has created whole trainings, whole seminars, whole books, just from that creative practice. So whether it's you're doodling, or you're creating a new soup, or you're singing, or you're making lines on paper, if that's whatever you love to do, you give that to yourself for 10 minutes a day, you'll grow your creativity.
Nice. Well, I feel that kind of if we can hone that capacity, to follow that impulse. And it's funny, I was talking to a spiritual teacher the other day who used exactly that phrase in terms of waking up. It was like, we wake up beyond our this image we have of who we are, which is false.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have this idea that then we become very neutral, or there's just like a blankness or something, if the ego
right.
Actually, what comes through is this authentic impulse to go out and create in the world. It's freed, and
yes. And it's also funny. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I say I'll never trust a spiritual teacher who's not just outrageously funny.
Right.
Because there's a certain level you realize we're so funny. What we make up and what we're generating, it's hilarious. And when people get that it's funny, that's real. There's really freedom in that. So how I know somebody's really stuck, in a persona, is they'll say, "That's not funny." And I know that means they're really stuck. But the moment I really get how funny it is, that is so incredibly liberating, and it really feeds creativity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can feel that here right now. It's been a really delicious conversation. And,
great.
Yeah, that sense of how if we bring ourselves to what we love, and I love doing this, I love speaking with people like yourself.
Clearly you do. It's very,
but you can feel that emergence happening, it's like, even if somebody's alone, it's like the one thing emerges out of another, and you never know where it's going to take you. And that's happened in this conversation too. We didn't sit down and plan this, and here we are. And
exactly.
I feel really alive.
So to me, that's such the big fun, is that we're discovering. And you can live in waves of discovery. And then from your discovery, you take new actions, you make new choices. And the other thing I wanted to just say as we're ending here is that we found that transformation happens one choice at a time. Just one choice at a time. And so if I make one new choice, that sets things in motion in a new direction. It's not like I need to solve the whole thing, if I just make one new choice, and that begins to change the whole system.
Like one, yeah, because it's not this big pressure, is it? All of a sudden, it's just
Right.
the next choice and the next
Right.
choice.
Yeah. So the new choice would be, oh, whenever I notice I'm hunched, oh, I'm just going to take a few breaths. And that's a new choice.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm full of gratitude, Katie. I've really
Thank
loved our
you.
conversation today. I want to thank you for sharing yourself so generously.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I can see that you're full of gratitude. I think
Yeah,
that's how you go through life, is full of gratitude.
as much as I can. Yeah, not
Well,
all the
yes,
time, but
as
yeah.
much as we can.
No, no, totally. Yeah, but I think that curiosity and yeah, it's definitely a big part of who I am. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Hi, it's me again, and I want to take a minute to tell you about our new online training program for coaches. It's called Coaching from Source: How to Be a Transformational Presence. It begins on October the 11th and runs till December the 15th. And it's all about how do you move beyond your tools and training, even your coaching persona that wants to get somewhere, and open into this space of source where magic can happen. And Katie's on the faculty, so she's going to be teaching, but she's joined by some amazing coaches too. Um, Karen Kimsey House, Jim Dethmer, Richard Strozzi Heckler, Michael Neal, John Prendergast. They've been coaching for decades and decades between them. So what do you get in the program? Well, it's going to be live video classes where you can join and interact with the teachers. There's going to be live coaching demos. There's going to be everything's recorded so you can watch it back afterwards, and it's all put into this beautiful online course environment along with transcripts of the sessions. You're going to be put into practice groups with coaches from all around the world to be able to practice this shift, this powerful shift in your coaching. So if you want to know more, you can head to coachesrising.com/coaching from source. coachesrising.com/coaching from source, and enrollment is open now.